Alright, one last trial, and one last fragment of Sapphire Ridge that we've not explored yet. Like everything else here, we could have explored ahead. I just thought it might be nice to pace these videos something resembling organically. Anyone might accuse me of having overthought this a little bit. So yeah, there is one last cave full of spiders and incredible puzzles that we need to navigate. At this point, I'm just fighting these guys out of habit. It's very fun. Also, I just really like hitting enemies with this. Like, I'm just gonna keep doing it. It feels good to do. Do you expect me to not? So yeah, sometimes in this game you do walk into a cave and you do see buttons, and you do see those buttons linking up to shop redirectors. And you do know, in your soul, what's about to happen. I think I said beforehand that Sapphire Ridge's dungeon-ness isn't really quite the same as some of the actual dungeons in the game, and this is probably the point at which I recant that a tiny bit, maybe. Because this room could have been the end of the dungeon. Note that little cave opening off to the right. That was surprisingly difficult to see on my monitor, but I just want you to know that during the window before I remembered that that was there, I did manage to actually just cheat and jump over here and skip this whole room. I just wanted to make sure you all knew that that's possible. We're gonna do it right though. Even if it is a little bit of a mission. Don't worry though, we get plenty of opportunities to fight stuff. Also, I should say that this isn't actually part of the progression. You don't have to do this puzzle to finish Sapphire Ridge. By virtue of having reached the... actually managed to reach that ledge and make the jump over to that button. Not that button, but the one that I skipped to earlier. We're coming up the legit way. By virtue of doing that, you basically can just skip this area and go ahead. The puzzle is only for an item. But, well, you know how this works. We do not skip stuff. Okay. You do have to clear out these spiders before you do this puzzle. I mean, you don't have to, but if you don't, chances are that the shot is not going to get out of this room.
That doesn't surprise me. Honestly, I'm surprised that they haven't done more rooms like that, where the puzzle, like, almost in and of itself, where part of the puzzle is, like you are actively being impeded in the puzzle by the presence of dudes.
Yeah. I think that would have required some, that would have required some AI work to get that to work organically, I think. To have enemies actually interfere with the course of puzzles is the kind of thing that I can imagine being way more difficult than it seems like it would be. Even just beyond the design of the things. We have had rooms where I think there were a couple of places in Bergen Trail where the puzzle was to not destroy all of the icicles in the room. I feel like there's some scope for a puzzle where the trick is to not destroy the enemies. There's definitely been games that have done that kind of thing. Like I'm thinking of stuff like in a 2D action game where you have a grapple move of some kind that can launch you from a flying enemy into the air. Having puzzles where in order to reach an otherwise unreachable jump, you have to let an enemy live and float it over to the ledge and then grapple off of it. I can think of a couple games that have done that kind of thing. But not this one. This game does not ever ask you to suffer an enemy to live. Probably something to do with the Track of the Ancients, right?
I suppose.
Anyway, this is the end of Sapphire Ridge, kind of, but don't think that means that we're done with searching for stuff. This fucking room. Did you note how immediately after opening that chest, we just got ambushed for literally half of our health? I hope that didn't escape anybody's notice. So yeah, that was me trying to land Circle of Valor and fucking it up again. Just add that to the count. The trick here, of course, is that this area is tiny. So you have a lot of scope for using abilities that hit in any kind of a decent area, even abilities that hit in a small area. You just keep the bullshit flowing. It will hit something. If you put up a guard art, there's 4 enemies dancing around this place. Someone's gonna hit you. Our prize for this is a weapon with decent stats, but it leans on Berserker, which is a skill that buffs your attack when you're on specifically critical health. Critical health is just below 1/3, by the way. And I don't like that. It's not my style. I never go for that kind of stuff in games, usually.
I mean, the only hit point that matters is the last one, after all.
Yeah, there is that. But I don't like having to rely on the one that matters. I like the idea of being able to take a hit, even if I also like the idea of actually not taking a hit. Which is not to say you can't do some hilarious stuff in a lot of games. Hell, even in this game, by leaning into the boost at critical health stuff, it's valid. There's like 100 different ways to play this game. They're all great. I'm just saying, we've eventually got to pick favourites, and that one's not mine. What I did wind up going with in the end is, like, broadly high, but not fully into, but broadly into focus. Because focus does a lot of things, but the really important one that it does is it gets you more skill points just from doing stuff. And more skill points means more techs, and I don't really think I need to explain that in much more detail, do I? High focus in particular also gets you more critical hits, which, decent improvement to your damage. But also there's stuff even beyond focus for going into a combat art build. We don't even have much of that stuff yet, but we're gonna get into it. I am tending towards a build that's just absolute skill point fountain. But before we reach that point, the game does throw a lot of different stuff at us, and I have been going to some effort to try and showcase a variety of approaches, because they're all good. This is a well-designed game, in several ways that matter. I should not have done that jump. There. Doing this properly. But yes, you can also just do that jump. It's weird. It's a little design misstep. I'd have made that ledge a bit further away. Now you'd think that lead boots slow you down. They actually don't. They do give you negative flash step. That just means that you have less iframes during your dodge. But also, it basically gives you super armor while you're eating, and it has 15% skill point regen on it. Which I believe not even an entire minute ago I was just talking about other ways to juice your skill point output. And this is absolutely one of them. Now, I would like to state in advance that I have rejiggered the tech setup a tiny bit before stepping into this room. Just keep that one in mind. But first, let's solo some bugs. This is pretty scary, as you can imagine. If you haven't gone to the trouble of figuring these guys out, it's pretty easy to wind up leaning on your party to get through those encounters. But, yeah. The red ones don't fall for their guard. The purple ones watch out for their dash attacks, and then hit them. That's really it. Other than that, you've got to have your fundamentals. Use your guard arts. Actually block and dodge stuff, don't just mash. This is very possible. And if all else fails, just use Toxic Revenant. Like, come on, it's so good. Even knowing all that, I still managed to almost die in this. Because one thing that's pretty consistent throughout this game is that you don't want to be on the back foot. This game never really starts feeling impossible unless you're trying to defend while already at a disadvantage. But I believe we were just talking about the only hit point that matters?
I am mildly impressed that you did not get owned.
I mean, I almost got owned. Almost. This is the day I almost got owned. So anyway, yes, obviously, we're gonna duel the Vagabond. Like, come on, I don't know why I even bothered joking about that not being the case. Now, there is going to be an owning in this fight, because the Vagabond here is a souped-up samurai bug, so yes, he's pretty dangerous, but also he is a boss, and his attack patterns are elaborate and completely scripted. Here is the ultimate version of our Ice Guard art, followed immediately by the ultimate version of our Big Number Icicle. In the second phase, he switches to Shock, Do you remember what shock is weak against?
I believe the answer is big health-draining lasers?
Now, do you remember that I said a little while ago when I showed off the big health-draining laser for the first time that there is a second, alternate, level 3 wave combat art? And that it was, good? There is no third phase.
What would the third phase have been?
More or less the same as the first two, except he likes to switch between the forms quickly and at random. And his attacks just have more chains in them. It's really just standard clutch stuff, actually. Ether Snipe. Single projectile, hits one target, but it bounces 3 times, and it multiplies in power with each bounce. It is comically broken. It is a cornerstone of a lot of phase skips. It is obscene. I'm not going to use it again, with one exception. Just because... Voice of the people. And yes, the dialogue there actually literally does not wait for you to advance it. Emily just cuts him off. Anyway, that's Sapphire Ridge, folks.
We did it. We got the lore.
We also have a special bulletin from the Operation Trackwalker headquarters.
You know, I can't help but get the feeling that they're talking so much about how we've finished the plot and we've unlocked all these things, but there seems to be one rather notable area that we have not been to. And I definitely recall hearing that it was in Sapphire Ridge.
There is a bit of Sapphire Ridge that's, actually is explorable and is to the north of this. It's just that, well, you'll see. But yeah. Were you expecting an early access reference? In retrospect, you probably should have been. But yeah, turns out we're actually here for a final tally of our dungeon races, and it was a shutout. Sorry, Emily. I also kind of, tactically lied a bit earlier. I said that there was a trophy for winning 5 dungeon races. The trophy is actually for winning all the dungeon races, and it says that. And you might be a little bit weirded out if you see it unlock, and you don't know that Gran Criscayo is actually the last dungeon. So, don't know how to feel about that one. But anyway, yeah, there is a little bit more of Sapphire Ridge to explore. We did see the area with the gate that we couldn't open that needed another shade. Shockingly, our objective turned out to be beyond there, but yeah. As far as the plot content of Crossworlds is concerned, we beat the game. Officially waiting for the next patch. And look, the Vertigo girl finally got to finish an area without freaking out. It's kind of blink and you'll miss it, but during the opening pan for this area, you actually can see the meditating guy just sitting on top of the rocks at the very north of this area. It's impossible to get there. How did he get there?